Welcome to our US Briefing Show. Today, we've got some exciting and important news to share, so let's jump right in. First up, President Trump has announced a hefty 30% tariff on imports from Mexico and the European Union, starting August 1st. This move is part of his broader trade strategy, aiming to address trade deficits and digital taxes, but it's stirring up quite a bit of concern and potential retaliation from those regions. It's a trade war in full swing, folks. Next, in the space race, China is making giant strides with plans to land astronauts on the moon before 2030 and build a lunar base by 2035. They're also aiming to send missions to Mars and beyond, potentially overtaking NASA's efforts. With lunar water extraction, lunar bricks, and advanced satellites, China is positioning itself as a major player in space exploration, competing head-to-head with the US. Finally, the recent Texas floods have been a tragic reminder of climate change's real impact. Despite early warnings from climate scientists about increased storms, leadership dismissed these risks, leading to devastating loss of life. It's a stark call for action. Are we truly prepared for the next big disaster? Please continue to stay tuned for more details. According to CNN, President Donald Trump has announced a sweeping 30% tariff on all imports from both Mexico and the European Union, marking a significant escalation in his ongoing trade war. Trump justified these tariffs by citing national security concerns and the persistent trade deficits with these major partners, despite acknowledging Mexico's efforts to curb illegal immigration and drug trafficking. The tariffs, which are set to take effect on August 1st, are part of a chaotic series of policy moves that have left global markets and domestic businesses uncertain about future trade conditions. The EU expressed readiness to negotiate a deal before the tariffs take effect, but warned that such measures could harm supply chains, businesses, and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. Meanwhile, Trump emphasized that any retaliation from Mexico or the EU would be met with additional tariffs, further complicating international relations and trade negotiations. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation highlights that Trump's tariff threats extend beyond just Mexico and the EU, as he has also issued new tariffs against Canada, Japan, South Korea, and Brazil, reflecting a broader push to reshape global trade dynamics. Trump criticized the trade policies of these nations, accusing them of maintaining unfair barriers and long-standing deficits that threaten U.S. economic and national security interests. His administration has been particularly critical of Europe's digital and value-added taxes, which target online companies' revenues, claiming they unfairly tax U.S. firms operating within Europe. The ABC emphasizes that Trump's aggressive tariff strategy is disrupting decades of established trade rules, with the U.S. effectively abandoning the traditional, most favored nation approach and risking a global trade environment characterized by reciprocal tariffs and increased economic uncertainty. Yahoo US reports that Trump took to social media to publicly post the letter he sent to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, announcing the 30% tariffs. In his correspondence, Trump accused the EU of engaging in unfair trade practices and highlighted the large trade deficit as a core issue. He indicated that the tariffs could be lifted if the EU and its member states decide to manufacture more within the United States, suggesting a strategic leverage point. Throughout the week, Trump has issued multiple tariff notices to various countries, signaling a confrontational stance aimed at pressuring trading partners to renegotiate terms more favorable to the U.S. While some European officials expressed hope for a negotiated resolution, the overall approach underscores a shift toward tariff-driven trade policy that risks escalating into a broader global trade conflict. The South China Morning Post vividly illustrates China's ambitious and rapidly advancing deep space exploration plans, positioning itself as a formidable rival to the United States. China aims to land astronauts on the moon before 2030, with prototypes like the Mengzhou Crew capsule and Long March 10th moon rocket nearing readiness, while also striving to establish a permanent lunar base called the International Lunar Research Station, ILRS, by 2035, an endeavor that involves innovative lunar brickmaking, water ice extraction, and diverse architectural concepts for supporting short-term human presence. Simultaneously, China is making strides in Mars exploration with the Tianwen-3 mission, set to return samples by 2031, potentially surpassing NASA's efforts hindered by budget constraints and delays. China's deployment of relay satellites, such as Keiqiao and Keiqiao-2, in strategic orbits enhances communication with lunar missions, and plans for a lunar navigation and communication system mirror the infrastructure backbone crucial for future deep space endeavors. Beyond the moon, China's space diplomacy flourishes through collaborations with Russia and international partners, sharing lunar samples and establishing the ILRS as a global, inclusive initiative akin to the US-led Artemis Accords. China's broader planetary defense mission targets asteroid deflection strategies, while its continuous lunar and planetary missions, like Chang'e 2, Chang'e 5, and upcoming exoplanet hunting telescopes, demonstrate a comprehensive approach to exploring and understanding the cosmos, all while asserting its influence and leadership in the new era of space exploration. South China Morning Post reports that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi expressed optimism about the future of China-US relations after a constructive meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Kuala Lumpur. Wang highlighted that the dialogue was based on mutual respect, aimed at managing differences, preventing misjudgments, and expanding cooperation, emphasizing that both nations recognize their significant global influence. Rubio echoed this sentiment, noting that the talks were pragmatic and positive, with prospects for high-level meetings between Presidents Trump and Xi Jinping. Wang also discussed regional stability in the South China Sea, condemning external interference and advocating for a peaceful, cooperative approach, while criticizing U.S. support for the Philippines and its tariffs, which Beijing sees as disruptive to global trade. He called for a shift away from unilateralism and chaos toward multilateralism, promoting openness, unity, and development in the region. The Advocate reports that the catastrophic Texas floods, which have claimed over 100 lives and left at least 160 people missing, could have been mitigated if warnings from climate scientists had been heeded. Since March, scientists warned that record melting of the polar ice cap and rising temperatures would increase atmospheric moisture, destabilize the jet stream, and cause storms to stall, leading to severe flooding across Texas and neighboring states. Despite these warnings, Texas and federal leadership, dominated by climate change skeptics, dismissed the warnings, cut weather forecasting resources, and refused funding for early warning systems like flood sirens. As a result, many communities were caught unprepared, with alerts failing to reach residents and emergency responses delayed or absent during critical early hours of the disaster. The article highlights a stark failure of accountability, emphasizing how political denial and neglect of climate science have directly contributed to the tragedy, and warns that unless those responsible are held accountable, such devastating events will continue to recur with even greater severity. The Associated Press reports that a year after Donald Trump's near assassination at a rally in Pennsylvania, he still bears the physical and emotional scars of the attack, which profoundly impacted his outlook and campaign. Surrounded by memorabilia of that dark day, ranging from paintings to sculptures, Trump openly credits divine intervention for his survival, believing he was spared for a divine purpose to save the country. His friends and allies observe that he has become more attentive, grateful, and spiritually aware, often speaking about how he was saved by God's grace. Trump's chief of staff and longtime friends emphasize that he sees his survival as a sign that he has a higher calling, which has deepened his resolve and sense of divine protection. Despite his rough exterior, those close to him note a more serene and purposeful demeanor, believing that his experience has reinforced his conviction that he was spared to restore America's greatness. The attack has also subtly shifted public perception, portraying him as a resilient fighter who was saved for a greater mission, reinforcing his narrative of divine favor and purpose. CNN reports that President Donald Trump's approval ratings have significantly declined since the passage of the Big Beautiful Bill, a comprehensive legislation signed into law on July 4 that included expansive Medicaid cuts, Medicare funding reductions, and extended 2017 tax cuts. Gallup's latest data reveals that at the 6-month mark of his presidency, Trump's approval ratings are at 38% and 40% for his first and second terms respectively, lower than any modern president at similar points, with an average approval of 52% since JFK. Other polls depict a mixed but generally low approval. The Economist shows 42% favorable, 54% unfavorable, Morning Consult reports 45% approval, Rasmussen indicates 48%, and Gallup from early June records a 42% approval. Compared to his first term's average approval of 41%, his current ratings are notably lower, especially when contrasted with past presidents like Obama, 59%, and Clinton, 66%. Experts highlight that while approval ratings are a simple yet powerful measure of presidential support, they are heavily influenced by partisanship and political polarization, with recent decades seeing widening gaps between Republican and Democratic assessments. Overall, Trump's approval remains below the historical average, reflecting a challenging political climate and the impact of recent legislative and political developments. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6 brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6 team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6 brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6 brief via email.
Morning coffee, fresh off the press. Reading headlines, feeling blessed. World keeps turning, stories unfold. Every moment, news gets told. Flipping channels, clicking tabs. Feeding my mind's hunger grabs. Facts and figures, images bright. News keeps rolling day and night. Headlines and headlines, can't get enough. Learning about the world, yeah, it's my stuff. Headlines and headlines, stories unfold. Knowledge is power, truth to behold. Politics, science, sports, and art. Every story plays its part. Global voices, voices near. Every headline loud and clear. Need the latest, got to know. Never stopping, always go. Scrolling, swiping, reading on. Daylight breaks in the dawn. Headlines and headlines, can't get enough. Learning about the world, yeah, it's my stuff. Headlines and headlines, stories unfold. Knowledge is power, truth to behold. Need the latest, got to know. Never stopping, always go. Scrolling, swiping, reading on. Daylight breaks in the dawn. Headlines and headlines, can't get